Behavioral research confirms that the activation energy required to begin a behavior is disproportionately higher than the energy required to continue it once started. The anticipation of a difficult task generates more negative emotion than the task itself typically produces. The 2-minute rule exploits this asymmetry by collapsing the initiation moment into the smallest possible commitment, making the only real obstacle to any habit almost trivially easy to overcome. If starting a habit takes less than 2 minutes, you will almost always complete it, not because of motivation, but because of behavioral momentum. Once you have started, the sunk cost of the start, the reduction in anticipatory anxiety, and the natural momentum of being physically engaged with the task all work together to carry you through. This is not psychology in theory. It is behavioral mechanics you can design around right now. Today's science draws from B.J. Fogg's Stanford Tiny Habits framework built with over 40,000 participants, David Allen productivity systems and task initiation work, Airely and Wertenbrock psychological science research on procrastination and commitment devices, and Angela Duckworth JPSP studies on self-control as a long-term predictor of behavioral persistence across effortful and high-resistance goal-directed tasks in real-world naturalistic settings and environments. The 2-minute rule intervenes at the only point in the habit loop where conscious decision-making can act, the initiation moment. Without it, the brain evaluates the full cost of the complete behavior and may generate avoidance. With it, the only commitment is a tiny start. Once physically engaged, behavioral momentum carries the routine forward to natural completion. The 2-minute commitment is not the habit. It is the gateway that makes the full habit nearly automatic. B.J. Fogg's behavior model from Stanford's Persuasive Technology Lab explains why the 2-minute rule is neurologically sound. Behavior occurs when motivation and ability both exceed a threshold simultaneously. Motivation fluctuates and is the least reliable variable in the system. Ability is stable and designable. Making the behavior tiny, reducing it to a 2-minute start, reliably keeps ability above the threshold regardless of motivation. You do not need to feel ready. You need the start to be nearly free. 4 mechanisms explain why starting for 2 minutes almost always produces full habit completion. Before starting, the brain overestimates difficulty. Anticipatory anxiety is typically worse than the experience itself. In the first 2 minutes, physical engagement begins and anxiety reduces rapidly. Through minutes 2 to 10, sunk cost and loss aversion make stopping feel wasteful. Momentum builds. At completion, the habit reaches its natural endpoint. The 2 minutes was the only real obstacle at any point. The most common misapplication of the 2-minute rule is treating it as a duration limit, doing exactly 2 minutes and stopping. This misses the point entirely. The 2-minute rule is a start strategy, not a cap. The commitment is to a tiny gateway action, putting on shoes, opening the document, sitting in the chair. What follows is almost always the full behavior, because crossing the activation barrier makes stopping harder than continuing. The 2-minute gateway design framework has 3 components. First, identify the gateway action, the small physical act that makes stopping harder than continuing. Running becomes putting on shoes. Writing becomes opening the document. Second, make the gateway your only commitment. The full habit is explicitly optional, which removes all resistance. Third, celebrate the gateway itself. Fogg's research shows positive emotion at the start reinforces the initiation behavior and accelerates automaticity over repeated sessions. 5 gateway actions pre-designed for 5 common habits. Each is the physical act that makes stopping harder than continuing. For exercise, put on your workout clothes and nothing else. For reading, open the book to your current page and hold it. For writing, open your document and type 1 sentence. For meditation, sit in your chair, close your eyes, take 1 breath, and start the timer. For healthy eating, place the healthy food on your plate before anything else. 3 if-then plans that deploy the 2-minute rule at the precise moment resistance appears. When you do not feel like exercising, your only commitment is putting on your shoes. The run is explicitly optional. When you do not feel like writing, open your document and type today's date, 1 sentence minimum. When procrastinating on anything, start for exactly 2 minutes with nothing else available. The barrier is always the beginning, never what comes after. The hardest part of every habit is the first 2 minutes, not the 30 minutes that follow, not the effort, not the skill. The beginning. Design your habit so the beginning is nearly free, a gateway action so small that refusing it feels more absurd than doing it. Once that threshold is crossed, momentum, sunk cost, and the natural structure of the behavior carry you the rest of the way. Activation energy collapses. The habit happens. Subscribe to Habits, backed by science for weekly peer-reviewed research applied to how behavior actually works. Identify one habit you want to build this week and define its 2-minute gateway action right now. Write it down. After this specific anchor, I will do this specific tiny thing. That sentence is your complete habit design. Fogg's research confirms the gateway action is where automaticity begins. The rest follows from that one small physical start.